What is up, my fellow mobile gamers? In today's video, we are going over the rarities and the boosts in NBA All World. Like and subscribe is greatly appreciated. Trae Young, I mean, look at this. This is crazy spawns right now where I am at. So yesterday, I went on a crazy exploration. I was playing the game pretty much all day. I was going all over the place, and we've got a ton of new things. I just want to do this really quick. I just want to go briefly over this, and then we'll jump into like the topic of discussion. We went ahead and we got our first all-world rarity players, so a great time to kind of go over the different rarities. We got Damian Lillard, we got Kyrie Irving, we got Jimmy Butler, we got Chris Paul. I think that was it for our all-world. Yeah, 3 main rarities in this game, and we can actually, this is a good example now since we have these spawns. You'll notice that the starter rarities, or what I like to call them as commons, they're going to show up in that gray. So see Devonte Graham right now, and the emblem underneath of him kind of looks different from the other players. That is letting you know that he is a starter. So that is the lowest rarity. When you recruit a starter for the first time, you will get them at rank 1, which is 1 star. The next rarity will be all-star, and that's represented in the blue. Also, you'll notice that underneath of them, they have this like blue looking different kind of icon. That is letting you know that they are an all-star rarity. The all-star rarities, when you recruit them, they will be at 2 stars or a rank 2. And then finally, if you go ahead and you find an all-world rarity, such as like Damian Lillard or Kyrie Irving, you'll notice in the bottom it says all-world, and it's showing it in pink. This is letting you know that that is the rarity. So when you find them out in the wild, out in the world, you're actually going to see their name pop up, and it's going to have pink instead of blue, and they're going to have like a pink icon underneath of them. The other thing is, I believe that the starters are capped on their rank. I'm not sure what it is. That's what I've heard. I'm not sure if the starters are capped at a rank 4 or a rank 5, and then they can't go any higher. So let's go over our boosts, because boosts are very important in this game. Once I unlock a little bit more of the gear, I'm gonna try and do like best builds for like different types of players, and like recommend which type of gear you should put on them and which kind of boost you should put on them. We have 3 different ways we can boost our players. We have gear, we have warm up, and then finally we have power up. Gear, you'll see we have offense, defense, and fitness. The gear number, that is strictly the boost you are getting from whatever gear you have on them. Sneakers, pants, whatever it may be on your players, they'll get additional stats, and it varies depending on the clothing that you put on them. The icons are all represented right here. The little basketball icon that you see first is the offense. The kind of tower is defense, which looks like a speed meter on a car. How you know when you're going 0 to 60, that is the fitness. Now, the way to get the warm-up boost is from your daily warm-ups, which is in the top left corner where you see the 2 little steps. My best beginner's guide video, I mentioned how you need to go to your settings and turn on the tracking for your steps, so that even when you're not playing the game, it will still track your steps. That way you don't have to be playing the game and have it open and kind of walk to get credit for your steps. That way you can be at work, or you can just be walking around wherever, and then you'll already have the steps accumulated, and you can just come in here and do your warm-ups. This is a good way to not only get some rewards, but you're also going to get up to a maximum of +10 for your stats. You'll see at the top one, we have a +5 for our skills, a +3, and then the first one is a +2. So altogether, you can get a +10. And then the final one we have is our power-up. Power-ups are just kind of tokens that you can use to increase, to instantly boost up your players. You are capped off at 40 and 30. So for offense, you can go up to a maximum of +40. For defense and fitness, you can go up a maximum of +30. Now, the way these boosts work is that the game takes the points and it distributes them evenly among what I'm going to call your substats. So I'll say your main stats are your offense, your defense, and your fitness. And then if we click on them, you get like your substats is what I'd say. We have ball handling, perimeter shooting, mid-range shooting, and dunk power. So it distributes them all evenly. So for offense, if we go ahead and we boost one of our players +40 to the maximum, it's going to distribute those 40 points divisible by 4. One of these substats is going to go up by 10 points. So ball handling will go plus 10, perimeter, shooting, dunk power, and it's represented in the green. It's kind of hard to see because it's very small, but the yellow is kind of your main stats that you accumulate from just kind of leveling up your player and ranking them up. And then the green, where you see the plus 15.3, that is the boost that I am getting from my gear, from my power-up boosts, and also from my warm-up boosts as well. The game doesn't add them together. You actually have to kind of do it yourself if you want to determine what your current power would be. So for ball handling, it's 47.9 plus 15.8. So we'd have to add them together to kind of get what our overall ball handling skill will be currently. Now, real quick, let's just go over some of the stats and kind of what they mean from my understanding of what they are. Ball handling, all ball handling does is kind of go against an opponent's steal ability. So it's kind of like ball handling versus steal. A very simple way to do it would be like attack versus defense. If you're familiar with any type of like MMORPG or any type of other game where one character is attacking another and another character has like a defensive stat versus an offensive stat, that's kind of how it works. So ball handling goes hand in hand with stealing. Perimeter shooting, kind of, again, we went over this, determines when you're doing like your shooting contest. It determines your shooting bar, how fast it moves, how big the green is that you can kind of miss and not be in the green and not be in the box. Mid-range shooting is kind of if you're shooting inside the arc. Now, I don't know if it actually goes by everything inside the arc or if it's like in the paint when you're shooting in the paint for 1v1 or when it's not in the paint. So I don't know where exactly mid-range shooting is, but that's where it's kind of determined. Dunk power kind of goes hand in hand with when your opponent is trying to do the steal or block animation when you are driving to the lane. If you've ever noticed that animation where it kind of takes over and you have no control over it, that kind of determines if your dunk power is high enough, then your opponent can't really steal it or block it when you're driving to the lane. Defense determines how well your player kind of covers the opponent, because you personally don't have control over your character when you are playing defense. So you'll notice that sometimes certain players will push up more on defense as opposed to other players, and sometimes when a player kind of does movement, the player will get lost and they kind of get crossed up, you know. So if your player has really poor defense, they're going to get crossed up very easily. You'll notice the animation when an opponent, or even if you do a crossover and you see them kind of break their ankles or stumble, that's because they have a low defense stat. Blocking, again, blocking determines if you're going to block them when they're doing like a dunk animation, or if you're going to block when they're kind of doing like a jump shot. The one thing that's been kind of weird with this is height does play a very important role. If you have a tall player versus a small player, usually the tall player will instantly shoot over the small player, and the small player pretty much can't block their shot. However, I have noticed that when I was using some of the smaller guards, if I boost up their defense and I get like their blocking skill up a decent amount, and the opponent is kind of significantly taller than them and they shoot like a jump shot, I'm still able to block their shot just because the blocking stat has been boosted from my other boosts, whether it's my gear or just the regular token boosts. That's one thing that's kind of a bit weird about this game. Stealing determines if you're able to steal the ball from the opponent. It goes hand in hand with kind of their ball handling, if they have high ball handling skills or not. It's a lot easier to steal from them if they don't. For fitness, we have strength, speed, and stamina. Strength determines how good your character is at kind of like bulldozing over the opponent. When you try and drive to the lane, you'll notice that if your player is stronger than the opponent, you'll actually push them back and they'll kind of stumble and they'll lose their balance, which can give you space to either do a jump shot or drive to the lane, which will trigger that special animation that's completely unblockable and unstealable. You'll notice because it kind of like does like a freeze frame, and they do some crazy animations. Some of them they'll do like through their legs, and the ball like glows, I think like a color or something glows. Those are complete unblockable and unstealable animations. So that's one thing I just want to also mention. So strength determines that. If your character has high strength and your opponent doesn't, then it's also going to be harder for them to kind of push you back. So if they try and drive to the lane, you'll notice your character will pretty much just stand there as a brick wall and they'll run into you, and your player will be unfazed, but you'll knock the opponent back. So they'll be dribbling the ball, they'll try and drive, and oh, it's like they hit a wall because your strength is higher than them. So strength does have a huge impact when it comes to stuff like that. Speed determines how fast your player will move on the court. This is more so for when you're playing defense and you don't have control over your player. If you have high speed and your character is very slow, it's going to be hard for you to kind of guard them or even drive by them. Vice versa, depending on if you are offense or defense, you'll be able to move quicker. For stamina, stamina goes hand in hand with strength. So stamina has to do with if they have high stamina, then they are able to kind of recover faster if the opponent kind of bulldozers over them. You know, when you give them like that stagger, or kind of if you like break their ankles with a crossover, if their stamina is very low, it's going to take the player a lot longer for them to recover from being stumbled, like pushed back, or from having their ankles broken. Whereas a player who has very high stamina is going to recover almost instantly, and it makes it tougher for you to kind of get that quick opportunity to drive to the lane or pull up shot. But that's pretty much it. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed the video. A lot to cover in this game. Stay happy, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace!